My name is Anil Rajvanshi. I run this small NGO called Nimkar Agriculture Research Institute. I was born and raised in Lucknow in 1950s, early 1950s, and did my schooling in St. Francis High School, which was a very good missionary school. And from there I went to IIT Kanpur for my B.Tech and M.Tech, and from there I went to United States to do my PhD in mechanical engineering. And after teaching there for 2.5 years, I returned in 1981 with not only my degree but with a wife also, whom I found in University of Florida. She had gone to do her PhD and I was doing my PhD, and she came from Phaltan, so that is the reason why I landed in Phaltan, because wherever your wife takes you, you go. So this has been my life. I have always felt that maybe I did something very different in my life, because nobody from IIT Kanpur who went to United States in the early 70s, in fact the whole country was going to United States, they all have stayed in America. They have done very well in whatever field they are. In fact, some of the major players in Silicon Valley are my classmates, and yet I chose to return and came back to rural India. And I have always wondered what motivated me, what were the forces which guided me, and I feel that through my life history, through my life story, if I can inspire the youngsters to be attached to the story of India and to help in developing this country to great heights, that will be a mission worth looking at, and that is what I really want. And through this medium, I would like to do that. So when I came back because of arrogance and because of my stupidity. Because if I had been intelligent enough, I would have never come back. Phaltan was a place where you could not get anything. Sometimes to make even a long distance calls, I would hop on the bus, go to Pune, which took 4 hours in those ramshackle roads, make phone calls. That was Phaltan. And yet I left a very lucrative career. I was teaching in University of Florida, which was a very good university, and left everything. And so there was a genuine madness, because I have believed in my life that you cannot do anything worthwhile without madness and without genuine. And this has been the story of my life, which I would like to convey to the youngsters. Genuine is passion. When you have genuine, then all other things vanish. When you are in love with whomsoever you want, then you don't think about the world. You think about only that person. And that genuine has to be developed in the youngsters. And I was very fortunate, and that I have no explanation, though I write a lot on spirituality, but I feel that there were forces which helped me do that. I started my spiritual career at the age of 13 and 14. Started meditating, started doing a lot of very interesting things, and I think that helped me do tremendous concentration. And concentration is the first step towards genuine, because when you focus on anything with a deep thought, then you don't think about anything else. And that is what I feel that the youngsters are lacking. They cannot focus for even more than 5 or 10 seconds on anything. And if you have that focus for a very long time, then you develop genuine. And when you develop genuine, then all the things in the world become your experiments, your toys, because you want to discover. And that discovery was what made me stay in this Phaltan, which was a very overgrown village. I looked at the problems that I saw, which were happening there. When I came back, there was no electricity. There used to be 8 to 10 hours electric outages. At night, we would study or read under the old hurricane lanterns. And being a mechanical engineer, I started thinking why hurricane lantern has not been made better or improved. So that was my first job. was my first project, how to improve the hurricane lantern. And probably we were the first people in the world to attack this problem of lighting, which was a very old lighting system. And we developed very unique lanterns. Then I saw huge amount of sugarcane trash burning in whole of Phaltan taluka, because sugarcane is a major crop. I thought it created a lot of pollution and it was such a waste of energy. So we developed a whole basis of biomass gasifiers. We developed a whole national policy for producing power from biomass. So these were the things, and once you get your teeth into all these things, then there's a junoon just keeps on going up. Coming back to rural Maharashtra, it also simplified my life. It detoxified me. I was so much into the American way of life, with a high tech, with 1970s America and India, there was a difference of Zameen and Asman. India was in a very strange state. Today, India and a lot of developing countries are very close to American way of life. But in those times, and it was a very different India and Phaltan. To get anything, I had to write a letter. After a month, I would get a reply. And then, but that allowed us to keep on focusing on our work. And when you live in a rural area, it simplifies your life. Because there's nothing to do. To think, to whatever the deep thinking that you can do. And since I had that, my spiritual leanings, so it also allowed me to think very deeply, what is the state of the affair of the country, why we Indians are still poor, what can be done. And then you start going more and more deeper into it, because we are all looking for truth. Truth has no madhab, truth has no religion. Truth is a universal basis of life. And all of us who look very deeply into anything that we do, we reach the truth. And when you start doing that, then you realize that what is there in each one of us, and which I call spirituality. And when you look at the spirituality, and then that gives you also the power and the vivek and the wisdom to think about things very deeply, and also to utilize whatever you're doing in a very efficient manner. So my life has been, in whatever I have preached, what I have talked, I practice. So I live a very simple life. I have done a lot of analysis, a lot of putting numbers on how I live, and I have shown that in 1/4 to 1/5 of the energy that is consumed by an average American, one can live a very decent life in rural India or anywhere else. And that has been my basically the work I have done. Not only that, then I felt that why, my father went to jail with Mahatma Gandhi in 1940s. So there was something that I got at that time in early years of my life, and I was just too attached to the story of India. And also I found out that the youngsters and young students are not attached to the story of India because they do not think about the greatness of this country. Everybody tells them this country is a very bad country, nothing moves, you just have to get out. I don't think that's a good idea, because we are a product of this country. We have, our genetic code came from this country. We do wonderfully well all over the world. So what is the reason why we cannot do very well here? What is the reason why we cannot make this itself as a great country where people would not run away? And that is the reason why I think that through this medium, I should be able to tell my story, and I should be able to inspire the youngsters that each one of us have to work to make this country great, which means that we have to look at the problems surrounding us. We have to solve those problems ourselves in whatever way we can, so that if each one of us do that, then this country will become great. And I personally believe that spirituality and technology, high technology, can provide sustainability and happiness. This is what I have written for the last 20 years. I have books on them which people can read, and this is the major thing that I think if we follow that, and if the youngsters follow that, then this country can become great. But for that, the youngsters have to really focus, and that focus should start with them. They should spend less time on their mobiles and on the social media, and think and contemplate. I was born in Lucknow. My father went to jail with Gandhiji in 1942 movement, Quit India movement. He was caught in Delhi, and then from there he was transferred to Lucknow jail. And in fact he had almost a 5,000 rupees reward on his head, because he gave the first revolver to Feroz Gandhi. Feroz Gandhi was a personal friend of my father. In fact, everybody who helped in making India were my father's friends, because they were in the jail with him. He liked Lucknow very much when he got out, so he decided to stay in Lucknow. His colleague was Keshav Dev Malviya. Keshav Dev Malviya and my father used to run a press to put out a paper for Congress and etc. And they were running the press in the house where I was born later on. And Nehru called Keshav Dev Malviya to Delhi to become the General Secretary of Congress Party. And so my father was left alone. So he decided to close and use that place to where we stayed. I went to one of the best missionary school called St. Francis High School, and for whatever reason I used to top in my class, or came always first, sometimes second. And on my 13th birthday, my father gave me a present which was Gandhiji's autobiography in Hindi. Though I went to English medium school, but my father used to give me a lot of books in Hindi, and so I became very proficient in Hindi. And that book, Gandhiji's autobiography, changed my life. It was as if there was a switch. I became so engrossed in Gandhiji's life and his early part, and that started a whole chain of events which put me in the path of spirituality. It's a very long story how it happened, but there used to be libraries, excellent libraries in Lucknow in those times. I used to go get all the books of the great people, read everything, Rig Ved, Patanjali Yog Darshan, Quran, Bible, everything. At the age of 14, 15, it was just a desire to read. It was like a switch. I've never been able to explain why it happened, but I think there was something. And at the same time, I was too inspired by the independence movement. We used to have in our school, in the history, the independence movement of India. There was one of the sections, and there was a 3-volume independence. I forget now the name of the writer. He was a Bengali writer. In fact, that books were used in the BA and MA in history, and that really caught my imagination. And I was so inspired by how India really, from the very depth of depravity, came through B.C. Roy, Raja Rammohn Roy, Vivekanand, Ramakrishna, and the whole series of people. And that inspired me very much. Then the same time, I used to be given on every birthday great stories of Jatak Kathaएं, Panchtantra, all the great books about the Indian. And I feel that is what is missing now. The students don't read the great classics that we have in this country. That after all, this is a country which produced the greatest philosophical thought. All the great thoughts of the world have come from India, whether it's Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. Some people even say that Muhammad spent also a lot of time here in India. Well, this is a debatable point, But the fact remains that the great philosophical thought of the world came from India. And I think that is something we should be talking and giving and telling the students, because when they know what great this country was, then they will start having an attachment to the country. Otherwise, not only the philosophy, the art, the culture, the music, everything, somehow when the youngsters, they think everything is bad here, which is not the right thing. And I think it is a great duty of the teachers, the parents and everybody to instill that. And from my own experiences, I was just a great book lover. I used to read extensively, and I think you get tremendous wisdom by reading, and that has remained even now. Unless until we spend time, the teachers, the parents with the children, on making them aware about the books, making them interested, because once they get interested, then they might not look at their mobile. Mobile is something which is given to them because they do not know how to read, or they do not want to read. So those are the forces which made me whatever I am today. Even when I went to IIT Kanpur, one of the great things about IIT Kanpur was, in those times, we had a large number of humanities courses. In fact, whatever I am today is because of the humanities subjects. And I used to ace all of them. In fact, there were a lot of professors in political science and in philosophy who told me that I am wasting my time in mechanical engineering and I should be doing my PhD or something else, because it opened up the whole world. It broadened your vision. You become a well-rounded personality when you read more than simply your books or passing exams. So this is something which we are missing, because people learn. Even if they do not learn in their, by passing exam, they will learn on the job if you are intelligent. But it is this, how to be a good human being, what is ethics, that can only come when you read about the great people all over the world who developed these things, the ethical systems, the philosophical systems. And that I felt was a great thing that I imbibed. And that continued even when I was in the United States, because not only did I do very well in my studies, but I also did very well. I used to attend seminars in sleep and dream. I used to attend seminars in so many film appreciation. I took a whole course in film appreciation, because these are the things which define a human being. And how do we teach this? How do we really instill in the youngsters that these are far more important things than simply just passing exam? So these were the life forces when I was young, and I have always believed that at the age of 14, your whole personality is made, and so till 14 is a very powerful time to mold you, and that molding should come by exposing the students to the great things about this country. Not by dividing, not by saying that only this is good, that is bad. Our whole civilization for the last 5,000-7,000 years is a combination of so many people. It does not matter from where they came, but what they developed, what they did in this country is what is important. I became engineer, and I still do not know what was the background. But anytime anybody came to Lucknow, we'll go to the railway station to receive them. And the steam engine was so fascinating. And the huge, massive machine with a lot of noise, with the way it used to work. And I used to just stand mesmerized in front of the steam engine. It would be very difficult for my father to take me away from that. And that was the start of the germ of engineering in me. Then anytime any toys were given when I was a very child, my mother would tell me that I would break the toy in no time, try to find out what it was, and then attach all of them to make a rail gadi. So this is how the whole tamasha of engineering started. Then I do not remember which birthday, but I was given the basic mechano, this engineering set. And I made many more things than what was there in the manual. And everybody used to call me engineer even when I was 9 or 10. And by age of 11 or 12, we used to have a DC fan, direct current fan, and I would open it up, put the brushes. It just came as a flare. So that was probably the reason why I wanted to be engineer. But more than that, I wanted to go into IIT because IITs had just been formed in 1960s, and they were some of the finest institutes in this country. And IIT Kanpur was number one, and being very close, since Lucknow was very close to Kanpur, so I decided that I'll appear for that. We were not sure that what preparations, because in those times my parents didn't have enough money to send me to. There were no actually coaching classes, but there was this janoon to really do very well. And also, since I was a very good student, I got a tremendous feeling for mathematics. So in my high school, I was solving MA books of mathematics, which was in the Lucknow University. So I was very good in physics, mathematics. And my joint entrance exam position was 29. So I got into the best IIT Kanpur, and with mechanical engineering, this is what I wanted. And I studied mechanical engineering, did my M.Tech, B.Tech. After M.Tech, and I think during that time, because of my spirituality and so many things, I wanted to be a teacher. This is something which just got in hold of me. And I felt that you cannot be a good teacher till you do a PhD. So that was the incentive to do PhD in mechanical engineering. By being in the topmost institute of the country, I realized that the PhD in mechanical engineering from IIT Kanpur is quite useless. Even today, the quality of education, higher education, is very bad in this country, and there is no reason why we cannot improve it. Then the most third-rate professor in IIT Kanpur gave a talk on solar energy. This is in 1971. He had come from an international solar energy conference, and I went to attend his talk. And I felt it was a tremendous place or area to work in. And I got very fascinated. Anything in the library on solar energy, I read it. And I became more and more interested because it was so fundamental. Felt like that, that after all, the whole life on this planet Earth is because of solar energy, and why we don't use it. So I decided that I have to do my PhD in solar energy. And I got a Government of India scholarship. That I was the first Government of India scholar to do my PhD in solar energy from India. Then I decided where should I go, and then I did a lot of research in the IIT Kanpur library. And I found that University of Florida had a professor, Eric Farber, who was a very pioneering professor, very hardware oriented, because I wanted to do something which was hand, one could do with hand, not simply theoretical studies, because a lot of people were doing theoretical studies. And so I decided to go to University of Florida. In fact, the Ministry of Education, from where I got the scholarship, they said all our scholars go to MIT, Harvard, Berkeley. What is this University of Florida? So I said, I'm not going to university, I'm going to a professor. And that was what I did, and I never regretted it, because what I learned from him, I don't think any of my classmates learned from going to big universities. Because big universities, they do a lot of theoretical work. Their whole focus is on creating more and more of the research workers who will work in America, who will stay in America. The things that I learned with Eric Farber was to do work with hands, which I could then use it in India. And that, to my mind, was a great thing that I did. It was not that he taught specially for work in India, but I learned so much. And then going to a good university, it was a totally a different experience. The libraries were fantastic. You could get anything you wanted. So it was like an ocean of information, ocean of knowledge. And I used to spend so much time in the library that all the librarians of University of Florida became my friends. So anytime I wanted anything, they would get those books or those things from anywhere in the country. But that was also a very great thing in America, that if you don't have a book in that library, they would get it from anywhere. So it was, to my mind, my 7 years that I spent in University of Florida were the happiest years of my life. Because whatever I am today is because of the huge amount of information and education that I got. Besides, I met my wife. So to my mind, that University of Florida was a very great experience. And I tell this to youngsters that please go abroad, because you can broaden your horizon, but come back. But this does not happen, because again their families, their peer, what is there in this country? You are there doing a very good job, you have a gadi bangla, all sort of things. But these are very minor, shallow things. If you really want to get good people, great Indians back, you have to attract them by telling them how to be attached to the story of India, how you can help. And another thing is that, if you are in America or another place, you are doing some useless work for Americans and other Europeans. The challenges are here. This is a country which has the maximum challenge, because we have a tremendous poverty, we have a lot of problems. And to solve those problems through our technology and our knowledge is what we should be doing. So I came with that Janoon. I was so stupid, I thought I'll change India. India is a very ancient civilization. A great man like Gandhi or Buddha could not change. Who was I? And yet that arrogance brought me, that Janoon brought me here. I started focusing on something that I could do. I was very clear when I came here that because you see, every sensitive soul can very much be influenced by the poverty that you see. I realized right from beginning that I am an engineer. I will focus on engineering, because to my mind, technology is what changes people's lives, not the philosophy. After doing engineering, and then you can utilize the spirituality for yourself to give you the wisdom, and the combination of this can give you sustainability and happiness. And that has been my whole mantra. So when I came here, this was a flat piece of land, there was nothing here, and yet I was supposed to make my lab. There was no money. The first person that I met when I came from United States was S.L. Kirloskar. Kirloskar, I went to see him. Kirloskar said, "You are a foolish person. You want to go to Phaltan? What is there in Phaltan? You join my Kirloskar empire, and I'll see that your knowledge is utilized." And I said, "But you come and lay the foundation of my lab." So he sent his plane. In those times, Kirloskar and J.R.D. Tata were the only two people who had planes, their own planes. Now everybody has a plane. So Kirloskar sent his plane. They circled over this where we are sitting, and he said, "There is nothing there." So I said, "You are going to lay the foundation stone, and then we will build up something." So this is how it started. But there was a Janoon. And to my mind, and now I realize that our institute and what I did here was the first startup in rural India. The first startup in rural India was Nimkar Agriculture Research Institute, work in renewable energy. And that is a very pioneering thing. And then all things that we did, they were all very pioneering, because the problems were in front of us. I utilized some of the best knowledge that I had and tried to solve them. And in fact, there was a deputy director from National Chemical Laboratory. He came here after we had set up our solar energy plant and etc. He says, "Anil, what you have done in 7 months, I could not do in 7 years in NCL." So one can do a lot of things in rural India. One can do a lot of things in a 4-second place. If there is a Janoon, if there is a desire to do it, and if there is a basic deep thinking about what you want to do. So this is the lesson to youngsters, that we should not be afraid. We should go any place, but if you want to do something in life, then you have to take a hard course, you have to take a different path, and that can only come with madness and genuine. My hero has always been Einstein. I have been inspired by his history, his biography, his life. And Einstein said that if you want to focus on anything, you have to be in a lighthouse where there are no distractions and you can focus and do anything. This institute is a very small institute. There have been very little distractions. So I have been able to focus on the problems that I see in front of me and try to solve them. When we started the work on our gasification, the idea was that this sugarcane leaves which were being burned, can we produce useful energy from that? So we started in middle 1980s the work on gasification of sugarcane leaves. The top engineering schools, IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay, IIT Bangalore, they were all working on this, and we were the only one who solved it. An IIT Delhi professor came and he just could not believe. He says, we have been trying so much and we could not solve it. How you were able to solve it? I said, I don't have any distraction that you IITians have. So we worked continuously day and night and solved it. And I believe that all innovations can be frugal innovations. You don't require too much money. You just require dedication and thinking deeply, and you can solve it. So the gasification was one part. Then when we were developing the lanterns, better lanterns, I saw that kerosene in 1980s used to be imported from Russia. That was a very major, because we had not developed yet the whole chemical technology for producing different fuels from the crude. So we were importing it. So I said, can we develop a new fuel instead of kerosene? And that was the whole idea of producing ethanol from sweet sorghum. Sweet sorghum is a multi-purpose crop that we developed in our institute. We pioneered that crop in India in our institute, and we use the technology, solar energy and so many things to develop the ethanol. And then we developed the lanterns and stoves to run on low-grade ethanol. So this became a very talk of the town, that not only you can drink that vodka, but you can also run Anil's lanterns and stoves on vodka. And the interesting part was Shetkari Sangh Joshi, he came with his people. He said, we would like to use this because all my people produce illicit liquor or hath batti, and so we can use that. But then nothing came out because Government of India didn't have at the time the policy for using, and even today they don't have the policy of using ethanol for household. When we started working of better lanterns, we asked the villagers, what do you want? He says, both our cooking and lighting, if it can be done by one device and it should be without any pollution, then you should do it. So we developed the land stoves running on ethanol and land stoves running on kerosene, etc., for which we got a very major award in Stockholm. So we had developed already our NARI lantern, and we found that the heat of that lantern was not being utilized. So we said that we will utilize that heat to cook a complete meal for a family of 4 or 5. And then that is how we developed the whole program and the concept of land stove, where a very high quality light equivalent to 200 watt bulb was produced from our lantern, and in the heat of that light a complete cooking for a family of 5, which included rice, dal and sabji, was done. Not only that, that heat also was utilized for cooking their bhakris and poddies and etc. And that was a very interesting program. The land stove, and then we tested this in around 25 unelectrified huts, and most of them were very happy. Naturally, it used to be run on kerosene, and the kerosene was in short supply, ration, and there was a lot of things, so it didn't fly. And then came this induction cooking, and when electricity is supplied, then people went for induction cooking, which was without any smoke or etc. But that was a very remarkable experiment. And then an Indonesian company came, and they bought our patent for the land stove, ethanol land stove. And I'm told that they have sold it almost 1 to 1.5 million land stoves all over Southeast Asia. While we were working with these unelectrified huts, we started talking to these people. We used to always talk to these poor people, and we found that they were spending 400 to 500 rupees per month on medicines. And we figured out, we didn't know why they were spending so much money. In fact, I have a feeling that some of the largest amount of medicines are spent in rural areas, not because they need it, but because the doctors unnecessarily prescribe it. But whatever the reason was, we started looking at it, and we found that they were not eating well. The reason for that was this poor woman who would work for 6 to 7 hours in the sun, in the farm. She would come home and she had to cook for a complete meal for all the family. Now, who in her right mind, with so much of after you have worked for 6-7 hours sitting in the sun, would you like to cook? So what they do is they make these big bhakris, big rotis, and they eat with very rudimentary thing which is called as some tikhat, which is chili powder, salt, something else. So the quality of eating is very poor, and anybody who eats poorly, you don't get enough good food, you get sick. So we then thought of having rural restaurants, that these people, after they finish their work in the field, they can go to these restaurants, very cheap food would be available, subsidized food, and then they don't have to cook also, so no pollution, etc. And this gave rise to rural restaurants. And this is the start of Amma's Kitchen in Tamil Nadu, where this idli sambar was given 5 rupees, and is also the start of the Shiv Bhojan in Maharashtra. And people don't realize, and the interesting thing is that in 2012, when I developed this idea, I had said that it will be 10 rupees per thali, and even today the Shiv Bhojan is 10 rupees per thali. So it did not change anything. And there were so many other states which wanted to do the same thing. So we feel very proud that from our very small work, we were able to really have a far-reaching consequences. And the same thing happened in our biomass power generation. Our taluka thing, today there are 10,000 megawatt power production from biomass in this country. So these are the small things that we did, but it had a major impact in the country. The same thing happened with rickshaws. In fact, e-rickshaws is our invention, and we are very proud that one of the greatest electric vehicle invention of this country came from our institute. I come from Lucknow, and since the only mode of transport was rickshaws, I always thought that this poor man in the heat of summer takes on his shoulder, it's almost like taking on his shoulder 2 or 3 people. Can we do something to help him? So we developed the whole program in 1995 when there was no talk of e-rickshaws anywhere in the world. We started this program of first improving the rickshaw, then converting into electric rickshaw, and finally in 2000 converting it completely into e-rickshaw. And I told the Bajaj group, I said, this is the future. And they said, no. What I have found very interesting is that a lot of the captains of industry in this country have no vision, no research. And that is what we are lacking, because the whole development of the world is because of research and development. And everything that we have today, the cameras that on which I am being interviewed, the whole technology is because of research and development. And somehow we don't do it, and we import. We make whatever the technologies are developed abroad, and that is something which I showed in our work, that with very little money, with very little resources, we were able to solve a lot of problems. And when I developed the e-rickshaw in 2000, my whole e-rickshaw was all developed, designed here. We developed our own motor, the controller, rudimentary controller, batteries, and today 75% of the total electric vehicle in India are e-rickshaws, and yet they are all made from components from China. All the big companies, they make only tibbas, their motors, their batteries, the controllers, they all get from China. So a very sad state of affairs, and I think we should think about this. Similarly, we did work on, because all the problems that I saw, I tried to solve it. So e-rickshaw was one, mobility. Then we developed a lot of electric farm machines based upon the technology. And I still feel that the future of farm machinery is through electric vehicles, electric machines, electric tractors, electric plows, electric so many things. Then we also worked on, the water is something which is very poor, the quality of water. And we started looking at the schools which are around Phaltan, and we found that the rural schools have very poor quality of water. So I said, what can we do about this? So we had been developing technologies for a very long time on how to purify water through solar energy, and we developed a very unique technology by which we could heat the water and we could kill all the E. coli. And also we developed the whole technology of saying that even on a cloudy and rainy day, we could still heat the water and make it completely E. coli free, so that it would be very good to drinking. And after almost 10-15 years of work, then now we have put 2 units in the local schools in Phaltan Taluka, where they are providing very clean drinking water for 400 students. And I hope that this technology can be spread on a very large scale. We said that if you take the water from the well, there are a lot of problems with the salts, arsenic, etc. So we said, why don't we harvest rainwater? Rainwater harvesting has been going on for many, many years. People have been using for thousands of years. But to convert that into good, clean drinking water is our technology. And we are very proud of that. The beauty of rainwater is that it does not contain any salts. What it contains is just E. coli and some bacteria which can be killed by our technology. So this is what the beauty of this whole system is. So anything that I saw in front of me, we stay in Phaltan, which has 2-3 sugar factories, and attached to them are the distilleries. And the distilleries pollute the waterways, the water, the canals and etc., because they put their effluent, which is very foul smelling. So we developed the whole technology of solar detoxification of these effluents. And the similar thing, just anything that we saw, we tried to solve it. And while we were doing it, I said to myself that, listen, this is fine. But being the student and admirer of Gandhiji, I said I should also live my life according to what I preach. And that is where my sustainability started. And I live a very simple life, but I live in a sustainable manner. And one of the things is that how to cool your house or how to cool your office without air conditioning and with the least amount of energy. So we developed the whole passive cooling system where we cover the roof with gunny sacks. We put water 2 times a day, and the evaporating water cools the roof, and you get a very cool air from the fan. Similarly, we use very little water. We try to conserve as much as possible. We use mostly internet for communication, so my travel is quite less. And in doing all this, I was able to find out that I was using 1/5 to 1/4 of the energy consumed by an average American, and I could still live a very nice and happy life. So this is how my work on the technology progressed. Naturally, there was a continuous background and a continuous like a thread of spirituality, because spirituality gives you the wisdom to utilize everything very efficiently and gives you the power to think very deeply about anything. Because anytime you think about something, you should think deeply. Why am I using it? You will wear only one shirt and one pant. What is the need to have 200 shirts and 200 pants? You will wear one pair of shoe. What is the need to have 50, 60 pair of shoes, etc. and etc. And this simplifies your life. And once you start simplifying your life, then each one of us can contribute to the simplification and sustainability for this planet, and especially for this India. So that is what I feel, that these are all sum and substance, because what I want to tell through this medium is that when you have a powerful brain, then on whatever subject you work and whatever subject you put your brain, you create new thought, you create solutions. And so the most important thing is, how do we create powerful brains in the youngsters? And that can only come with focus, that can only come with concentration and Junoon. And that can only happen when they don't spend too much time on frittering away the time on social media, on mobiles, etc. Which means that we need to inculcate in them the desire to read and read extensively. So this is my life story and my desire to tell the youngsters that this is what we should do. And when you do that, then you start thinking what is happening in your surroundings, how you can improve it. And when you improve your surroundings, you improve the country. And that is how you make the country great. We don't need to follow China, we don't need to follow America. We need to follow our own great philosophical thought. And that is what I have been talking about and preaching, that spirituality plus technology can produce sustainability and happiness. My spirituality work, which started at the age of 14, and it was always at the background, and naturally I got diverted into technology. And then in 2000, for whatever reason, I started back on it. I started writing. I have around 150, 125, 130 articles in Times of India, so many in other very famous news lines. I've written books on that, because I believe that once you become spiritual, you go deeper into it, you can do wonderful things. Now, being an engineer, I said this numbo jumbo that people practice, that is so sad in this country, because everything that we do has to have a very scientific basis. And because of that, I started going and looking at spirituality from the very scientific point of view. If I talk about that by doing meditation or by doing this can happen, then I should have a very scientific basis of why it will happen. And that is what has given me a lot of good insights on what is thought, because I believe I'm very proud of my work on the development of where the thought is produced in the brain, how it is transmitted. All that has been done through the deep science of neurobiology and physical basis and physiological basis. And I believe that if you do that, so what I'm doing now in spirituality is the same thing that I did in technology, using very deep science, very deep technology in trying to understand how the brain works, how the body works, what exactly are the mechanisms, and by doing that, how we can put all this thing together for creating a very sustainable and happy society. And I believe that when we have the vivek and the wisdom of spirituality to utilize technology for our benefit, then we will develop unique technologies for our benefit to help everybody in the world. And that is what I want the youngsters in this country to do that. The problems are here, the problems are our own. No American and Western country person will solve that. We will have to solve ourselves. And by being very deep thinkers, we will create very novel solutions for our own problems. And I feel that this is the future of India. Spirituality plus technology is equal to sustainability and happiness. And if we do that, we will not only create a great country, but we will be the beacon of hope and will also be what our Prime Minister talks about, Vishwaguru. That will be real Vishwaguru, not by just simply saying that we will be Vishwaguru. Vishwaguru comes when you do very hard work in developing technologies and developing yourself to have the wisdom to become a better human being. And I always end my talks by telling a story from Puran. A guru is talking to his disciples. One disciple is from North India, other is from the South India. And the guru asks the disciple, when does the night end? So the South Indian disciple says, the coconut trees are swaying in the wind and the first ray of sun comes out. That's when the night ends and the dawn begins. So he says, no. The North Indian disciple says that when the rays of the sun fall on the snow-covered peaks, that is when the night ends and the dawn begins. So the Guru says, no, my sons, when two students from two different parts of the country meet and they talk about the same things, they dream about the same things, that is when the night ends and the dawn begins. So I feel that when all of us work to make this country as a great country, not dividing it, but working together for creating a sustainable and happy future, that is when the night of the poverty ends and the great dawn of India begins.